Hello there, my name is Triple S, and in this video I'm going to point by point review Season 1, Episode 1 of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Let's begin. Point number 1. So, this season of the show will be adapting the first Dunk and Egg novella, The Hedge Knight, which takes place, at least in the book continuity, in 209 AC. AC standing for After the Conquest, Aegon Targaryen I's conquest of Westeros. Again, in the book continuity, the Dance of the Dragons, which the show House of the Dragon is adapting, ended in 131 AC, and A Game of Thrones of A Song of Ice and Fire began in 298 AC, meaning the Hedge Knight takes place 78 years after the dance and 89 years before the game. Couple all that with the death of the last dragon happening in 153 AC, 56 years before the Hedge Knights, we can expect to have a less fantastical show than what we're used to, with no dragons and no White Walkers. Point number 2. As well as less fantastical, we can also expect a show that is somewhat less serious, as perfectly set up in the opening of this episode, with the cutaways to young Dunk getting smacked by Sir Arlen and the jump scare projectile defecation. I just love the build-up of the theme we all came to love, then hate, then maybe love again, only for it to cut to literal shit flying through the air, immediately letting the audience know that if they'd had any expectation of the tone of the show to be like that of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, then they were very much mistaken. It brings to mind the more light-hearted and comical Hobbit movies compared to the more serious Lord of the Rings movies, though instead of burping dwarves we have explosive diarrhea. Point number 3. In case anyone was wondering, Egg actor Dexter Sol Ansel, who also played young Coriolanus Snow in the Hunger Games movie The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, did actually shave his head bald for the show. According to the video A Night in the Making Episode 1 on the Game of Thrones YouTube channel, it was a stipulation from George R.R. Martin himself that the actor picked for Egg would have to shave his head. No bald caps. Point number 4. If you're confused about why Dunk and Arlen had 3 horses when there was only 2 of them, Dunk basically explains right here when he catches Egg on one of them. It's because the horse Thunder is a war horse, not meant to carry any baggage and only meant to be ridden into battle, not for travelling. Point number 5. The 2 prostitute characters Dunk meets here, Red on the left and Beone on the right, plus the 2 others he meets later, Daisy pretending to be dead and Leah the Lovely with Manfred Dondarrion, are all new characters for the show, but the novella does mention the presence of prostitutes as well as merchants and thieves, i.e. camp followers. It brings to mind the Game of Thrones character of Shae, also a prostitute and a follower of the Lannister camp that Tyrion was a part of. And Dunk's awkwardness around Red and Beone might be because they are prostitutes and that he is in fact a virgin. At least he is in the novella, which isn't that surprising as novella Dunk is said to be either 16 or 17, no one is quite certain which. With Dunk actor Peter Claffey being 29 though, this guy is 3 years younger than me. What the fuck, I'm getting old. I highly doubt the show is meaning for him to be playing someone as young as 16 or 17, probably more early 20s I think, and if that is the case, I could still believe that he's a virgin just like his novella counterpart, even at that age. Point number 6. Dunk isn't the only one who doesn't have a stag. This episode doesn't either. The stag that Beone was referring to being one of the silver currencies of the Seven Kingdoms. At the inn we saw a gold dragon and Dunk tosses a copper penny to Egg, as well as also having one in the hilt of his sword, but we don't see any silver currency, and the only stag we do see is House Baratheon and Lionel Baratheon wearing his antler crown. So I guess in a way the show did have a stag then. Huh. Point number 7. Looking on the Game of Thrones subreddit, I see many say they find the show adapts the tone of the novella perfectly. And while I agree it's pretty spot on, I just can't agree with its portrayal of Dunk. In my opinion, show Dunk comes across as a lot more oafish compared to novella Dunk. Obviously with him being shown projectile pooping, but also with him hitting his head, not knowing what to say or saying the wrong thing, and continuing to sneakily pour his drink and take a swig when everyone has stopped what they're doing to listen to Lionel Baratheon. Reading The Hedge Knight, I got more the sense of novella Dunk outwardly acting as a knight will be expected to act, whilst inwardly feeling the anxiety of not knowing if he's acting as a knight would act convincingly enough. Whereas show Dunk seems to both inwardly and outwardly act awkwardly, with no chance of actually convincing anyone that he is a knight. This is perfectly shown with the show-only line of Dunk saying, "I don't know the right words," just immediately putting on display that show Dunk won't know what he's doing in regards to acting like a knight, whereas novella Dunk does know how to act like a knight, or at least like how Sir Arlen acted. It's just that he doesn't know if anyone will actually believe he is a knight. Of course, this could just all come down to adapting written words to screen, like with how a lot of novella Dunks in a monologue has been switched to being spoken dialogue, such as show Dunk Dunk actually saying he knows Egg will pick up the coin he tossed him rather than just thinking that in the novella, or when he talks to his horses. So, just like his inner monologue, Novella Dunk's hidden anxiety of convincing people he is in fact a knight has been adapted for the show by him putting that anxiety on full display, physically, by bashing his head, not knowing what to say, sneakily drinking, just all around acting oafish, rather than hiding that oafishness under a facade of knightly confidence, like Novella Dunk does. Point number 8. If it wasn't obvious the whole talk of Raymond Fossaway not being ripe, and Stefan being rotten to the core who needs the seeds knocked out of him, and being the senior branch of the apple tree, it's all because the sigil of House Fossaway is a red apple, which you can see on Stefan's breastplate. And speaking of Stefan, he is nowhere near as rude to Dunk in the novella as he is in the show. He doesn't call Dunk the word, which gets you instantly demonetized on YouTube, nor any other insults. The most we get is Stefan being described as looking scornfully at Dunk when his invitation to cross swords is denied. And it's not out of any fear that Dunk denies Stefan, but because Sir Alan once told him that the better you knew your foe, the easier it was to best him, and he didn't want Stefan to know what he was capable of with his longsword. Having read The Hedge Knight and knowing what's to come for the character of Stefan, I'm not sure how I feel about this change of his character for the show, making him more of an arsehole. We'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. Point number 9. I'll take this moment now to talk about how the show has shifted the order of events as they happen in the novella. Dunk setting up camp at the tree away from everyone is actually the first thing he does when he arrives at Ashford. In the novella, he rides off from the inn, arrives at Ashford, sets up camp at the tree, goes to buy himself some better armour, then he actually returns to his camp only to find Egg there just like at the end of this episode. It's then the next day he goes to see Plummer the steward to try and enter his name into the tourney before bumping into Raymond and Stefan Fossaway on his way back to the camp and Egg. While the show has rearranged events, so far they've all played out pretty much the exact same as in the novella, and going forward I'll only point out if things have been rearranged if it significantly changes how the story plays out. Point number 10. I wonder if Dunk chose the place he does to set up camp because the tree there reminds him of the tree he buried Sir Arlen near. Point number 11. Rather than a play with a guy in costume and a big intricate dragon puppet like in the show, in the novella the puppet performance Dunk watches is your bog standard puppets on strings style performance, with the dragon being controlled by the fingers of the woman Dunk takes a liking to. I wonder why it was changed from a puppet stall to a play in a tent for the show. Point number 12. The play Dunk watches a part of is that of the tale of the legendary S1E1, who, according to songs, used his mirror shield to approach the dragon Urax, before killing the beast by stabbing a spear through its eye. While the puppet show Dunk sees in the novella is described as a painted wooden knight battling a painted wooden dragon, there's no indication beyond that of it resembling the tale of S1E1 of the mirror shield. In fact, the only direct mention of S1E1 in The Hedge Knight is when Dunk is thinking about all the songs of legendary heroes such as Simeon Star Eyes and Florian the Fool. Point number 13. This scene of Dunk attending a party in Lionel Baratheon's pavilion is not actually from the novella, it's completely new, and it serves to flesh out the story of The Hedge Knight in adapting it for television, as well as flesh out the character of Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm, whose exact relation to Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones is unknown, though Lionel's heir and successor was Ormond Baratheon, who was Robert, Renly and Stannis' grandfather. Expanding on the characters is, in my opinion, the perfect way to also expand the short novella into 6 30 to 40 minute episodes, rather than adding in unnecessary long shots or ham-fisting in entirely new events that are completely detached from the novella and its characters. It also helps in showing Dunk, a commoner, slowly becoming more confident when interacting with those that are highborn. Like when Dunk stamps on Lionel's foot, only for Lionel to laugh and Dunk to take the initiative with his newfound confidence and playfully shove him. Point number 14. Speaking of the Laughing Storm, Lionel Baratheon, oh my god, instant fan favourite. Daniel Ings, who I mainly know from the Netflix show The Crown, is a great actor, and in A Night in the Making episode 1, he says he was interested in playing Lionel because the script described him as a cross between the Pirates of the Caribbean character Jack Sparrow and the writer and journalist Ernest Hemingway. To me, Lionel will be what you would get if you fused Robert and Renly Baratheon together. Like, I can 100% believe Lionel is an ancestor to Robert and Renly. Stannis, though, not so much. Point number 15. Having not seen any of the trailers for this show released before this episode, and definitely not the Weeks Ahead trailer released after, which I highly recommend people to not watch, as from what I've heard on the Game of Thrones subreddit, it just spoils everything from the rest of the season, I can only hope that Lionel wearing this antler crown means we're going to get to see more outlandish helmets based on the sigils of each house. Like the artwork of Robert fighting Prince Rhaegar at the Battle of the Trident by Justin Sweet from the World of Ice and Fire, and what we got to see a taste of in House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 1. Point number 16. Was anyone else, when they first saw Dunk dancing, reminded of Rocky being unwrapped by Columbia in Rocky Horror Picture Show? Just me? Okay. Point number 17. Neat touch of having Lionel use a warhammer, the signature weapon of Robert Baratheon, as an eating utensil. Point number 18. What might not have been obvious to those watching that haven't read The Hedge Knight is that Dunk is actually lying here when he says Egg is correct that Dunk is short for Duncan. In the novella, it said that Dunk is all that he ever remembers being called, not Duncan or any other name, just Dunk. Thank you all everyone for watching. If you enjoyed the video, and I hope you did, give it a like to let me know, and if you want to see more then make sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much again for watching. I've been Triple S, you've all been amazing, and I shall see you all in the next video.